pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank everyone who's present for coming. The next item is approval of the agenda. Do I have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Motion approved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to number 2, consent agenda. A1 is the minutes, regular city council meeting, April 12th, 2023. Number 2, emergency city council meeting, April 19th, 2023. Number 3 is the local board of appeals and equalization meeting, April 26th, 2023. Do we have any discussion or questions on the minutes? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Under consent agenda B, financial reports. City accounts payable, April 2023. City financial statements, April 2023. And number 3, the liquor store profit loss statement for April 2023. Any discussion or questions on the financial reports? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3 is time for public comment. This time is reserved for comments from the public on matters not listed on the agenda. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes.
I've never done one of these before, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Can you state your name, please?
My name is Bryce Vierkamp, and I just have a proposition, I guess, for the new ordinance on the pets. And it's a $50 register fee for lifetime per pet. And as I know, we don't have any animal control in the city right now, and we've been relying on the police for that. And I just was thinking maybe we could, after all the fees are collected, maybe go towards animal control department. That's all I have to say on that.
We will have that marked down.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else? Thank you again. Moving on to number 4, departmental reports. Police chief or department report for April 2023.
Mayor, members of the council, Administrator Owens, in your packet you'll see the police report for April totaling 281 calls for service. 54 of those were for extra patrol, 109 traffic stops, 49 community engagements, 9 assists to other agencies, 58 calls for service, and 2 medicals. And also you'll have the pie chart that we've been looking at for a while now. We're still trending in the right direction. You know, look at our calls for service are less than 25% of what we're doing now, so the proactive piece is still, I think, making a difference, where we're seeing a lot more of that and less responding to some things. So trending in the right direction there. Our new speed signs came in, so up on Thames, one by the school, we'll have electronic speed signs getting put up on each end. That'll tell you, what your speed's doing. You can have messages put on there. If you're over, plus it comes with a software package that's going to track all the speeds. I don't believe that. I think we're watching them. We won't know a plate or anything like that. We'll just know at this time of day, for a month, this is when the speeds are, so that we can look back and get some of that data. So, and those were paid for by Water and Light. And then we'll have another thing coming up later on the agenda that we'll talk about. Our new squad that we purchased here a while back is getting a new engine. We've had problems with it now for a while. We brought it in, we've argued with Ford on a few different things, They couldn't seem to figure it out. We finally brought it down to Sandstone, and they said it needs a new engine. It's all covered under warranty, so it's got the twin turbos on it, and the law enforcement stuff's probably a little bit harder, but yeah, we weren't having much luck up in Duluth, so brought it down there. They ordered the engine. It's just a matter of time. We still run it, but you got to watch, check the oil, constantly, because it'll shut down once it gets too low. So, also we're in the process of possibly getting a Polaris Ranger side-by-side with a full cab so that we can start doing some ATV enforcement, some of our special events. It's actually through the DNR, who I've been working through with the fire department to get it, and it's relatively decent shape in miles, so we're in the possibility of getting that donated to the department. So we'll see where that goes. Other than that, yeah, we'll cover a little bit that's coming up later, unless you guys have any questions for me.
I do have one question, maybe you clarify this, because some people have been asking about it. The speed limit up by the school, is that in effect all through the summer, or is it just during the school year?
No, it should be, just the way it's posted, it's gonna be all the time, because you don't know what's coming in there. We're in the process now of trying to talk with MnDOT, because MnDOT's doing the signing even for on the county road, to making it a 30 all the time, because you got sporting events that are going in and out, outside that time limit. It's Monday through Friday from 8 to 4, it's gotta be 20. And so now we stop somebody, well, my watch says it's 5 minutes to 8, so we get into that whole deal. 20 is a little slow, 30 all the time, but just make it a lot better. So that's the route we're gonna try to look at doing. So, but really, it doesn't say anything about when kids are present, it's just Monday through Friday. So the way it's written now, it's through the summer too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hang on. Chad, you got time?
Yeah.
I want to thank these two gentlemen, because how the flood that happened just a few weeks ago, and we jumped in with the emergency team right away, and the police department and the fire department, they went right to action. The committee took quick response of what was going on, came up with great ideas, jumped in the field, got it done, and I want to thank these gentlemen for their good work and serving the community and public safety. You guys are exemplary. Thank you. So I
Thank you.
appreciate that very much.
Yeah, no, thanks, but I mean, the credit really has to go to the mayor, because he called that meeting early, and I think we got ahead of things before it got too bad. Support that decision to do it, and it turned out well, so, yeah, congrats to you as well, nice job, so, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I guess as I was saying, since we're passing this out, I mean, it's a feel-good thing that things did not go bad, but it's the lessons that were learned in the past. I think we have a city administrator that's been here now for a while. We have a mayor that's been here for a while, a police chief. And I think Phil and his department as well took these proactive steps, getting these pumps and everything in order. And all those steps saved the city of what could have been very terrible. So I think it was a great community effort, so thank you.
Yeah, I think so too. So everybody involved did a great job. Like I say, you learn from every one of them, and I think it's going good. So, no, thanks. I appreciate that.
No,
Thanks.
great job. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to address your school, because you're probably getting some questions, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so I will tell you that we have did enforcement up there by the school. The tickets that have been written for 45 and above, all the way up to 60+ miles an hour in front of the school.
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon every day to have 30,
Yes.
35 miles per hour over the limit
We don't,
in there.
we haven't pushed that at all. So the questions that you get when they see us up there, are we enforcing the 20? The answer is no. It's the higher speeds, the 49, the 50s, the 60s that come through there.
Yeah, I think it was just coming to summer, and people
Yeah.
think in their mind that it's a school, it's not open during that time, so is the speed limit not the same during that time?
I'm hoping we can get it changed by summer, and get that okay to put it to 30, because that would, I think, would ease a lot of people, because it starts 20 way back there, and that's, yeah.
This is supposed to be.
It is.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. City Superintendent Department report for April 2023.
She asked when I.
Oh, I thought maybe you had
No,
something.
no, we're really gonna get into it now. No, I'm just kidding. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Rhodes, busy months. We go from ice and snow to, about a month ago to now we're just where we get laid blacktop next week. So it's really good things. We're moving right along, but we're way behind, but we're doing our best, so. We'll start in the water department like we always do, distributing 5.8 million gallons drinking water in the month of April. Hydrant flushing got kicked off because of the flood. We are gonna do it. It's gonna be here probably in the next 2 weeks. So I would say just before Memorial Day, we'll get that done. We're not gonna let that slip by the wayside. It did get kind of kicked out to that burner. So sewer department collected 28.5 million gallons of wastewater in the month of April. Doug, I see you writing that number down. You see you write it down all the time. That's
Yep.
way higher than any other month, right?
Mhm.
From the flood.
Yep.
The I&I reduction that we've done with the line, it's helped. Pretty tough to combat that though.
This will just be an anomaly.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yep, currently still doing some wastewater sampling throughout all of town. That's to meet our mercury permit standard and our phosphorus permit standard as well through the PCA. But we'll be doing that, that'll happen for the next probably 2.5 years. That's a huge project, so it's just gonna be something we continually deal with and continually monitor. But it's something we have to do, and that's just what we're gonna do. It actually encompasses like 47 different locations that we're calling up town. So it's a pretty big program. I really dislike it, but it's part of our permit, so that's just what we do. Heard me talk about a grant opportunity with Minnesota Rural Water, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, and the University of Minnesota. That paperwork came out. I did apply for every opportunity we could. The problem with that, it's only for $200,000. Every project in wastewater treatment is going to probably be at least $25,000 a piece. Breaks it down to what, 8 projects? 60-some facilities across the state. We'll see. We're throwing our hat in the ring because that's what we do, and we try, and we're going to try, but I'm not making any guarantees. But we're in the game at least, so we'll see what happens. The treatment side, we ended up discharging in April. That was a huge discharge, biggest one we ever had since I've been here. 48 million gallons. We did meet all our parameters, so that was good. PCA still thinks we're great. That's awesome because they didn't when we started, so that's super cool. The parameters were all met. Street department, pothole filling. I know potholes are everywhere. They're great. They suck. They're deep. It is what it is. We're doing our best. Cold mix is like super limited right now. Hot mix plants are opening up next week. We'll switch over to hot mix applications for those holes, but then we'll also start patching too. So you'll see bigger patches happening all over town. That'll start happening here really soon. Just a couple of small stormwater projects this summer, nothing major. Park, cemetery, campground, they're all fired up, they're all ready to go. We have a campground update coming up here, but from a public works standpoint, we're all good to go. So, I think that's all I got for now. We have some more to talk about later, unless you guys have questions.
Stay there. Listen, Taylor, come on up.
Cold, no. Gary, you want to come back up again?
Right here. This is part of the administrative team that jumped in on this emergency also with the flooding, and Phil with the major work of the physical part of it, which was major. Your team jumped in, the whole street department, and made it happen. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Because that helped get everything organized and everything laid out. And our administration took care of the background stuff, which ends up to be a lot. People have no idea how much data has to be recorded and captured. Every penny that's spent, the time, the people involved, it's data, and you have to do it. The way the state runs, if the county has a dollar amount over 80,000 in a flood within the county, then 75% of your expenses are covered. And ours is probably very high, probably more than 80,000. So you take the county itself, it probably was very high. The state has an amount of 10 million. If the state, which was called a statewide emergency if it reaches 10 million, then the feds will cover, or is it the state?
So the state covers 75% still, and the feds come in and cover the additional 25%.
Yeah, once it reaches over 10 million. So all of that data collection is so important, and that was accomplished. So thank you so much. I mean, for the whole city, I appreciate it, and the great work you did. Thank you. Thanks, Phil, for the report.
Yep.
Minnesota Liquor Store, unfortunately Ryan is not here, and I would like to also thank him for the help with that data collection. So, Alyssa?
Yes, we are getting ready to extend a contract to Mari Boss for a supervisor role down at the municipal liquor store. So the city's currently working on that. Once that is established, I know council has given consensus for that. Once that is established, we do need to do some part-time hiring as well. So we will get that accomplished, and then from here forward, we'll be working through the liquor committee regarding training opportunities and process pieces and kind of just diving into inventory and things like that. So we'll be sure to provide updates as we work through that. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to me or Ryan throughout this process. But Mari and the team down there has been doing a fantastic job, and we're excited about moving forward.
Questions by the council? Thank you. 4D Technology / Library Department report for April.
So I do have some library updates. There'll be a book sale on June 16th and 17th. This is the first year that the arena will be utilized for this book sale, so that's really exciting. We're going to see how that goes, and we'll have a lot of space. So encourage everybody to come out and visit the book sale. In addition, Steve Hamilton, a local magician, will be doing a show on August 3rd in the library. And lastly, Roth Chiropractic has notified the public library that they'll be giving a donation of all Newbery Award-winning books for the shelves at the Moose Lake Public Library. So that's really exciting.
Great. Thank you. And before I forget, we should be sure to do thank you letters for the donation.
Absolutely.
Also, for those on the emergency team, just so you know, I'm going to make a visit to CIP to thank them. I want to do that in person for all the men that participated in that effort they made with filling sandbags, just so the council knows and you guys know. So, and anyone's welcome on the team to come with you. It's up to individuals. Moving on, city engineer report for May.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces on this. A lot of the really important stuff is going to be addressed here in additional items. So at this point in time, if anybody has any questions regarding the engineering minutes, please feel free to let me know. Otherwise, we will cover the main highlights of these in other agenda items.
I got just one question, and that is on the initiative to check for lead in drinking water. Is that later? We discuss later in the meeting?
It is not on an agenda item. Would you like to provide an update?
Maybe just a quick
Yeah,
update.
absolutely, I can, yeah. So the lead service line rule is a new rule that the NPH and EPA came out with. It starts off with basically a survey, and our survey needs to be looked at through every water service we have in town, okay? So of that survey, that's submitted to NPH and EPA, I believe it's by May 2025. There's quite a bit of time to work on this here. I think we have 11 services left to check. So we had some previous data that we can go back and look at that can verify some of this information we needed, made which made our job super simple, so that was awesome. With that being said, as soon as those surveys get turned in, there's gonna be some opportunities for some grant dollars to replace some of those lead service lines. We don't have any we don't have any pure lead service lines in town. We do have some iron pipe service lines in town, which are then connected with what's called a lead gooseneck, is what they call it, Trey. It's a short piece of lead pipe. It's what they used. In our situation, that's what we're gonna be going after to get rid of. Granted, out of those funding opportunities for the second wave of this through the Minnesota Department of Health is gonna happen until after 2025. With that being said though, our survey is just about complete. We'll be turning that into engineers here probably in the next couple of months, if we can get them last few ones done this summer. We put a lot of that stuff onto winter work where we have some time to go out and check if we will kind of catch up on some of that stuff later. So, with that being said, there is some grant dollars out there to go after, and then after that lead survey, our survey is in, then we can start assessing where we go for that money and what we can do and what will be paid for, what won't be paid for, that kind of thing. So.
Our city engineer group is working on some of this activity in other cities as well, so they've been a really valuable resource and have a lot of information for us and experience with dealing with this. So we are being guided through this process as well.
You know, when we did 4th Street, which had, I believe, the oldest infrastructure, did it show up in the water lines?
What you mean?
The gooseneck, the lead?
Was that apparatus present on the job site?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, quite a few of them were.
They were?
Yep, absolutely. We have quite a few of them.
Hmm.
We do have.
So those were done already?
Yep, they're done already. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, and there's some guidelines as far as years as to installation when they quit using lead for to make that connection and that. So, yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
4F Chamber of Commerce updates.
Yes, the Chamber of Commerce Board is currently looking to establish a theme this year for the 4th of July festivities. So they are looking for ideas and or moving forward with voting on a theme. We've met with the Chamber of Commerce regarding the 4th of July fireworks event, and the city's been really fortunate. The Chamber has, in years past, done some fundraising activities for the city for the fireworks show. And so we had a meeting with them, and they will be doing those efforts again this year, so that's very much appreciated. In addition, there's a Nine and Dine golf event on July 28th that the Chamber is facilitating. There's a pancake breakfast fly-in that's facilitated by the Kiwanis Club. That'll be June 17th. And they're already planning the October raffle, and they're looking to distribute raffle tickets sooner this year. So even as early as this summer, you'll see them at local businesses and establishments for available for purchase. So that raffle event will be October 19th.
And you're actively planning the Aga Days event, which is a pretty big citywide event.
Correct.
Which they want to do a special meeting with the police department. I don't know how many thousands of people that draws, but boy, it's a job. Thank you. Any questions from council? Hearing none, we'll move on to number 5. Previously discussed business, Moose Lake City Campground update.
So yeah, the flooding did quite a bit of damage to the city campground. So we've been working with a local contractor to identify the damage and rectify it. Our season is set to begin this coming weekend, and so all of the activities that we've been working on here are attempting to meet that deadline.
So from a public works standpoint, water and wastewater utility, those are all turned on and they're working correctly. So that's a good thing. The electric, do you want to touch on that now?
You can give an update. We do have a quote later on in the packet for formal approval, but you can just touch base on the activity.
Okay, so we have 77 pedestals down there that the campers will plug into, right? So they connect their power into that, and fire it up, and everything works and everyone's happy. So 70 of them are compromised. Before they can turn the power back on to those, there's outlets and breakers that need to be replaced in 70 out of 77 of them. That work started today. Sounded like it was going pretty good. I'm gonna check in with them tonight when they leave. thinking they should be done by midday on Friday. So hoping everything turns out good. The bathhouse that was flooded, that was completely cleaned up and power washed and sterile, and then everything in there is fired up too and running. So everything is good as far as that goes. We're just kind of waiting on that last electrical piece of it to kind of button everything up so everything can kind of keep rolling here.
We hope JC building cleaned up, it's good, it's no
Not
damage.
cleaned up yet, but it's good, yeah. Yeah. We will jump on that here soon, but we wanted to get this campground deadline moved very soon.
Thank you.
We have completed the staffing process for the campground, so we have a meeting tomorrow with all new staff. We're doing training on the campground software, kind of having a meet and greet with everybody and looking at scheduling in combination with our campground hosts this year. So working through some of those challenges and addressing some of the needs that we've identified from operations of last year. And we'll continue to provide updates as we move through the season. So.
Very good, thank you. We have so many items, so we're moving on to number 6, new business, 6A 2023 easement request, Joe Schmidt. Yes, sir.
So
Oh, I'm Joe Schmidt, and I own the property that's just east, or just west, just east of the ponds, and on the east side of the Sioux Line Trail, up to the park area that the city owns. Do you want to give a little background, or?
you can feel free.
Okay.
So what the council has is the documents that you provided. And so if you want to give a brief update on what your request is to the city, that would be
Got it.
helpful. And just know they do have your visuals available to them right now to
Okay, good.
reference.
So I've owned the land for 3+ years, and whenever I go onto the land, initially we had to go through what I want to call a goat trail at this point in time to get to the land, and it goes alongside of the ponds, on the west side of the ponds. And so we go through that goat trail. There used to be a gate there, and that gate was put up to keep the kids out because they were going down there and partying. And so we all had keys, myself, Paul Schmidt, who's just south of me, and the city. And somebody removed that gate, and so now there's a little bit more traffic. You can see that the goat trail is getting, it's not becoming much, it's more of a river. So what we're looking to do, we have a cartway that was approved that goes right alongside of the sewer ponds, and it's right now through some fairly heavily tree populated woods. And for me to go through there, I would be tearing down a lot of woods to put a regular road back in there. And so our thoughts were that it would be nice if we could just piggyback onto the already roadway, the goat trail, and try to work through that and update that a little bit more and have access to our land. I've been working with the Carleton County water people to make sure that we're not disturbing any land and any of their needs. And I do fill the 5% areas that they've set aside. I've been working with Paul Schmidt, who is just south of me, to help us to get back in there a little bit better. And one of the reasons that we're looking to do that is every time I go into my land, I have to bother Greg Bernew, who's the county, he takes care of the Sioux Line Trail, to get a permit to go on the Sioux Line Trail to get into my land, because there's no way for me to get onto my land other than through the Sioux Line Trail. And so you're not supposed to be driving vehicles on the Sioux Line Trail. And so we are trying to work with Paul Schmidt here, work to put a roadway between there so we don't have to go down the Sioux Line Trail any longer. And what I'm looking for from you is I want to have access on that, just like Schmidt's, Paul Schmidt. I wanted the same access that they have onto the property part of the problem is that they sold some of the land to the city, and so there's stops halfway through the goat trail, and then it starts up again. So I'm okay to, once I get halfway through, I'm kind of breaking the rules, because I don't have access to that roadway unless I go through my cartway. And the only way to get through my cartway is to rip down a bunch of trees and make a trail through there. And so part of my conversation with Greg has been that if we do that, we're gonna be making a big mess down there, because the way the cartway was originally done, it doesn't really have great access. There's gonna be a lot of fill that's gonna have to go into the wetlands there, and it's gonna cost everybody money, because the way the cartway is written up, all three parties are responsible for any work that goes in there. Myself, the Schmidt siblings, and the city. And so I'm trying to prevent a lot of extra money and effort. I just need approval from you guys to be able to go on that cartway and get through there. That about sum it up?
That's covered. I'd like to feel your concerns first of all, and make sure you have a good understanding because of the work and protection you have to give to the sewer ponds and the land out there.
Sure. Yeah, now I have a better understanding of what Mr. Schmidt's ask is. You're essentially, just so I understand this, you're just asking for permission to cross that corner of property that we own?
Well, and part of the reason I'm trying to get this all done is I'm trying to gift the land to my grandchildren. And so I want perpetual access. I don't want to have to come back all the time and ask for permission, or if something happens or changes. I have my cart right now that gives me that access. But I'm looking for, I'm happy to get rid of the cartway, but I need to have access. And so, yeah. But I don't want to have to come back every year and say, hey, can I have another year? I don't want to do that.
So, can I,
Why not, Paul?
so when we sold the land to the city, my dad was Leonard Schmidt, and our family sold the one piece of property to the city. We reserved the easement across there. So I guess all we're trying to figure out is, do we have the authority to add him to that easement? Or how can we get Joe's name added to that easement, or, what's the process?
Greg is nodding his head, so maybe he could come up and talk at the.
Greg's got some input here too.
Yes, that he does.
The county could come up, and it looks like he has an answer to that.
Yes.
Is that okay?
I'm trying to stay out of jail and out of the paper. For the record, I'm Greg Bernoulli, County Land Commissioner. Know a lot, but not a lot of everything, so I'm dangerous. I'm not an attorney, and I don't play one-on-two. So first and foremost, before anybody decides anything, right, seriously consider legal counsel on this. But when this came up to me this past week with both a phone call from Mr. Schmidt, Joe, and also from Mr. Etner, I just went back and did a quick abstract of what I could find within the county records. And what I found was that in, let's see here, in 1991, our Reese gave it to the Schmidt family, Paul Schmidt's family. And then when Leonard took it, he sold a piece of that 40, the north 900 feet of the east 119 feet, to the city for the establishment of ponds, reserving unto the grantor a 66-foot wide easement, and then it has that legal description, which follows the existing road. So they retain ownership of that piece of property. So it's not the city's property, it's still theirs. So then they've got now down to Paul's property to the south of the ponds. And then as the description that Ben Anderson from Straight Line showed, he tied it from the south side of Moose Lake property going south and east towards the Moose, or towards the Sioux Lane Trail. Back in 2010, I was involved with the condemnation of city property, private property, and county property for the cartway by the townships of both Silver and the town of Moose Lake. So because the town created it under statute 16407, only they can vacate it. That's out of your guys' realm of of abilities. You can make the recommendation to both Silver and to Moose Lake Townships to vacate it, provided that he secured access across Paul's easement and across the rest of Paul's land to get into his property on the east side of the sewer line. Crossing the sewer line, that's gonna be interesting, and I'll have to work that out with the county board, but I think there's a lot of, I think this is gonna be very simple. It'll allow you to maintain your ponds and expand them. It'll get rid of the, if you were to expand those ponds now, you would have to deal with Mr. Joe Schmidt to, what's the word I'm looking for, to compensate him for the taking of properties for his cartway that the town gave him. You don't want to do that, it's all swamp. So I think the easiest thing would be for, and this is my opinion only, I'm not an attorney, would be to recommend to both the town of Silver and the town of Moose Lake, say, yes, we would like to see this vacated, provided that the two Schmidt families come together on using the easement across the city's property. I think it could be pretty simple. That's just me.
Phil, do you understand this?
I do, and it makes a lot more sense now when I'm on board with Mr. Benu there, so.
Okay, just so I know that.
Yes, he does a very good job.
So that's exactly what we're looking to do. But as Greg pointed out to me when I talked to him on the phone, I don't want to give up my cartway until you guys give me permission to move on. And so that's.
Let me ask you a question. Okay, you established this road, and you want to keep people out of there, though. Are you gonna put a gate up again?
So because it's gonna be an easement versus a cartway,
Yeah.
yes, either of these two families, or with your permission, or you ask them, can we put up a gate? It's completely legal for you to put up a gate. It's not a public easement, it's a private easement. So it's no different than putting up a gate at the end of anybody's driveway in this house, or in this building right now. So completely legal for Mr. Paul, for Mr. Joe, for Mr. Phil, to put a gate up and block access to the public.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because it is a private easement.
Most of the people that are back there right now are neighbors, and they're accessing the Sioux Line Trail. And so I don't know that we necessarily put up a gate at this point in time, but I think it was a deterrent initially when the city, and I think it was the city that put up the gate originally, Paul.
I believe so.
Yeah, when they put it up there, I think it was a deterrent from the kids going back there, because we don't see as many kids back there. We mainly see the neighbors that are right along Hageford's Road there accessing the sewer line.
I have
So
no
does
idea
that-
who took the gate down.
I don't know if it wasn't you guys?
No, it wasn't us.
Oh, okay.
So does a snowmobile trail still go through down past the ponds, down Hagford's?
So I was gonna bring that up. because
Is
yeah,
that
it
still a
does.
snowmobile trail?
Yeah, but Greg, I don't know how that works with, if it's a private easement? Is that-
It's a negotiated use between the Snowmobile Club and the private landowners.
Got it.
Yep.
If the private landowners so decide to change that Grant Name Trail, say, they can say to you, if it's you could tell, gosh, who is that? Is that Moose Mark? You could say, we don't want it here anymore. That's.
But it's still there.
I think it's
It
there.
was
grooming that trail?
negotiated
I don't know.
many years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think, I wasn't groomed this year, I don't think.
I saw the groomer come through. I met him right on the road, and he was coming from somewhere, so I would assume, I never rode it, but I assume.
Yeah, I-
Township approved
So,
easement.
what we just in case you're wondering, what we primarily use the land for is hunting and hiking. My wife and I have been out there a few times this winter snowshoeing, and so we don't have any big plans to build or anything like that. We just want to have access to our land. And so I did put up a pole barn, just to kind of keep all our stuff, that, our snowmobiles and four-wheelers and that kind of stuff out there. We don't have any plans to build, but can't tell you what my grandkids are gonna do when they take over, so.
Well, there'd be private easement, I guess they'd end up, whatever they need to do to get back there.
Right now,
if
I'm
they're
having a hard
building.
time getting them even to come
Right.
up, so.
I got a question now, just for the council. Now, let's say they approved it. Phil is I want to make sure that you are happy in understanding this. Now, I would imagine this is going to go to our law firm. That, with our decision going to law firm, and if it's all define whatever steps. What are your next step once that's approved? Are you going to the townships? Like, it sounded like. they
So
have
the,
to?
our easements and the dissolving of the cart path should coincide.
Yeah.
So we're trying, we've told Joe that we'll give him, because he's asking for another easement from us too, which
Understand.
isn't part of this. But we need to get that cartway, which Joe is completely right, doing the cartway through along the property line where, because that's what we gave the previous owner. And all they needed that for was to sell, saying we have access. But it was the worst possible, it runs right down the property line. It was good for us.
Okay.
And we're trying to make it easier for Joe to, to make a road in, on reasonable property.
Okay, so one thing that I caught that you stated now, let's say this is approved, yes, sir, then the old cartway is what you're mentioning that we, the city, or Phil would have to deal with to put the piping through if we build ponds on the west side of that road, which that originally was bought for. It was bought for to put 3 more ponds in.
Because the towns of Silver and Moose Lake condemned that property and gave it to Mr. Berkman, who then sold it to Mr. Schmidt. You would have to deal with Mr. Schmidt to cross his property, that cartway, in its current state. Once, if these two gentlemen can work out the easement among themselves and their attorney agrees, yes, we compel Mr. Joe's on top of Mr. Paul's, that easement, and then no one across. It makes it very easy for the towns of Silver and Moose Lake to vacate that cartway, and you don't have to deal with it.
I
Just
would
have to deal with
appreciate,
it.
that would be one of the things that we would want, because otherwise we can't build the ponds. They could halt it.
You can build it, you'll just have to compensate. Come to an agreement for going across Mr. Joe's cartway.
So to me, that would have to all
And
be,
Mr.
that would have to be involved with this whole discussion. So,
So it benefits all of us to get rid of that cartway.
yes.
But
And
he
Weaver-
needs we need to be able to give him the easement first,
And
or
we-
coinciding with getting rid of dissolving the cartway.
And we've agreed in principle on the easement
Yeah.
amongst ourselves. We just need to put it on paper and,
What other timelines are you working with?
well, we started this back in August and,
Are you on a, are you
not
on
in
a-
our control, stopped working on it, so we just kind of took it over ourselves and said, okay, if you're not gonna work on it, we'll work on it, so we'd like to get it done as soon as possible. So,
Alyssa, on the legal ends of this, I'm just thinking what kind of motion we can make today, but we have to make sure that it goes through our legal department.
Are you looking for the city to do the work and draft the documents? Is that your request, or are you looking for us to review existing drafted documents?
but you wanna mess with all- Now, we have attorneys, both of us, that
Sure.
can do our part of the easement. Yes, once we get that done, we want to bring it to you to remove the cartway, so.
Sure.
your attorney-
Unless the city is offering to do that. and-
Well, that's where I was coming from, like, from our perspective, our involvement is with the cartway.
Yeah.
Yep. And so we have to do our part, but we didn't want to go forward with our part unless, the city was involved and ready to go through the motions and the necessary.
I don't think we can do a motion at this time. We can do consensus and discuss with our law firm and start that process if there's consensus to move ahead. And then it would come back as soon as that's finished, and it possibly would be the next city council meeting in June.
So you guys don't dissolve the cartway though, it's,
It would be the boards, the township boards.
Yes, ma'am.
and.
They created it, they have to vacate it. So,
So are we asking the wrong,
Well, I think we would ask for
We're asking for-
consensus here for Alyssa to have the authority to move ahead with our law firm to work, our law firm, I guess, work with your law firms to come up with the right documents that solve what everyone is looking for.
And then it's brought to the township boards.
so, in my, also my role is to act as kind of the clerk for the county board, and we have a series of unorganized townships. When a private party wishes to vacate a road on one of those townships, it has to be the private party requesting to vacate. They can have, I'll call them amicus curiae, which are friends of, which the city in this role would play in this role. It would say, we support the Schmidt families in their petition to vacate chair of Siller, chair of Moose Lake. And that would be your role. We agree with this, here's why we agree with it. We wish you to move on their action. Only these two gentlemen, or only this gentleman, can make the action to vacate that currently to the towns.
So then does the request go to you or does it have to go to the boards?
It's gotta go to both Silver and Moose Lake. Then there's a process for that under 164.07 as to what the town board, they'll have to schedule a public hearing. So you make the petition, 30 days later at their next meeting, they can have the public hearing and vacate it right upon culmination. So it could be, it's gonna be at least a 30-day, maybe a 60-day deal with the townships.
So with consensus, we would work with our attorneys to come up with that communication that we support the process.
And here's why.
So that, I just want to make sure that we all understand. Okay, we go ahead and do that. Would that have to come back here for an official motion? I think it does by the city.
Well, if it's not the city's doesn't own the cartway?
The city does not own the cartway. You're acting as a friend of the plaintiff, let's call it.
So Joe is the owner of the.
I understand. It's just that to me, my responsibility is, at some point, this has to go through our law firm, and it hasn't. So to me, that has to be looked at, and the law firm understanding that from a legal standpoint. It is not that we don't agree, it's just that step should be taken. So that's why I asked your timeline.
It's not gonna be fast.
No, I recognize that
Yeah.
if I can get something saying, hey, we're on board with this, I can start working from my end in.
I understand.
I just can't start doing anything in the
Yeah.
goat path.
So, I think a first consistent yes, Mayor.
No, we're basically in consensus of as long as we'll be able to build our ponds if we have to.
Correct, and I want to make sure Phil has a full understanding of that.
So I understand what you're talking about. Before I would say anything, I would want to actually go on site and figure out, take our existing, would be our proposed plan that we had at one point, 4 to
Yes.
3 existing ponds, lay it out and make sure we wouldn't have to be involved in your easement or your cartway or whatever, which that involves me going through the network of the pipe and the ponds, which is not a big deal. But now that I understand what's going on, I can actually take that information on site, figure out where we can run pipe from point A to point B and back to point C rather, to discharge, so that expansion would actually work for our utility. So I guess that would be my recommendation, is just give me a month to look into this from a wastewater side and how it would affect us. I mean, we have land there that touches, right?
Actually, you guys-
Farther north of where your guys'
Yeah, you
one
guys
starts.
actually dump now in the creek that goes through my property.
Yep.
And so That's okay, I don't have any problems with that.
Yep.
It doesn't even smell.
But I'm talking about the, it shouldn't, good deal.
I know.
I'm talking about.
That's
the
what they all
first-
warned me when I first bought it. Oh, yeah,
Right.
it smells bad.
I'm talking about the first process of treatment, that's just moving liquid to stabilization pond, which is gonna be coming from a different location, crossing Hague first, going through the treatment process, and coming back across Hague first to meet our discharge point. So before I can say anything, I'd wanna look at how our proposed project, if we decide to do one in the future, how that would work.
Because supporting vacating the cart rate might not be necessary.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I think at this point, do I have consensus, we should move ahead? Greg?
I don't mind looking at it, yes.
Yep. Chris? Counselor? So we have consensus to take the next step, but this, I think the city, I gotta make sure Phil knows what he's doing, and we go through our law firm.
Let's not go that far.
Back up a second here, Ted.
Yes. But I think we have to do those steps. So, I would say, next month agenda item, this will be on it. Can you come back at that time?
And I'll be in communication with you as well as we kind of go through this process. So the combined email system will continue to be utilized for communication.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions at all?
Not at this point.
I know they've been doing a lot of permits, because Greg always sends me the ones coming out there, so I appreciate
Oh, are you the
doing
guy
that,
that
filing
does it?
them, so I see them, so thank you for sending those, I always see them come
Every
through,
time.
there's quite a few, so.
Great,
appreciate it.
thank you for your information today.
Thank you. And if you have any more questions, like I say, I know enough to be dangerous.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will be in communication with you to make sure you know you're on the agenda next month. And again, the same thing, second Wednesday of the month,
4 p.m.
4 p.m.
I was here at 2.
All
All right, thank you.
right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to 6B, Region Electric and Mechanical Campground Repair Quote.
So this is the official quote for the repairs that are being conducted in the campground. This was sent out originally for consensus prior to, but this will be the official approval of the quote for repair.
And that is,
So the motion would be for the invoice from Region Electrical and Mechanical for $21,735.
questions by the council?
This will be included in our reimbursement request to the county, and as Mayor Shaw previously stated, at this point in time, the threshold has been reached for the $80,000 mark with the county for 75% reimbursement, and then I've actually just been contacted by the county as the state is compiling data to meet the $10 million threshold for 100% coverage. So that will update council and residents as we get closer to establishing a 75% reimbursement versus 100%.
I'd recommend we move ahead with this. The sooner these are fixed, the sooner we can open the campground, because we can't open it in the condition that it is.
Correct. Just looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 6C, sign stop proposal, 7th Street and Birch Avenue.
All right, do they have a copy of the map in there? All right, so in the packet there, we've been getting a lot of complaints of speed on 7th Street. There's a lot of little kids on that stretch. And now with the ball games going on there, we're getting more and more people that are seeing the traffic come through there pretty fast, and it's used more of as a pass-through. Phil's been gracious enough to order a portable speed bump, so we're gonna get that set up here probably in the next week or so, halfway down that stretch. But part of the problem is when people are exiting off of Arrowhead and making that right turn onto 7th, they're continuing that speed right down that stretch of roadway. We found some signage stuff that we needed to change and fix, so we took care of that last year. But I think the best effort here would be to put stop signs where they're marked on your map there. At first, it was just looking at the one-way, but you don't want to leave that one section open without the stop sign, it just added confusion. So between that speed bump and those stop signs, making it where they have to start slowing down a little earlier, I think is probably a step in the right direction. So we wanted to bring it to council, Mayor and the Administrator Owens, to get approval to move forward with that. I hear it all the time, the speeds through there, people that are sitting, like even yesterday and even today at the baseball games, the speed that the traffic comes through that stretch of roadway, there's a lot of kids there. So we'd rather see us be a little proactive than prevent somebody from getting hit. So my recommendation would be is to add those 2 stop signs at that intersection.
Council?
I got one thing to say. One thing that might help out too, there seems to be a sidewalk that runs along there on the south side of 7th Street there, but it's like completely under those cedar trees, and it's hard to access that. Then that guy always has trucks and everything
Yep.
parked there.
And we
So-
talked to them numerous times too, and those are gonna have to get moved. And as far as right away on the street, if it's there, we'll be able to limb those back. Because there's gotta be a clear sight to that.
Mhm.
So, that's something that Bill and I can deal with. But yeah, part of the problem is, and we've had several conversations with that resident, and we will be again. So,
Okay.
even for some of the bus stops there, it's been an issue, so I think it'd be helpful to do that. It's gonna take people a little bit of time to get used to it, so we'll probably be sitting there, it's approved and we move that way, but for safety issues, I think we should move forward with that.
Council?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2 stop signs.
Got a second?
I'm all for stop sign.
John Burch.
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Are you making an agenda item, Rick?
Not yet.
Okay. 60 lift station service checks.
So you guys see these, I think, I try to do them, well, we service lift stations twice a year. I try to include these every time we do them, so usually try to see them twice a year. I can't remember if we did last time or not, but typically, I know you've seen them before. I know you've seen them multiple times. So these are basically all your lift stations and all the documentation saying that we actually looked at your lift stations and your pumps and checked them all out. And then the first page, I did not write that comment, that's highlighted in pink. I did highlight it in pink, but I did not write that, that was straight from our pump technician. So, with that being said, these documents are what we build our budgets for the following year, as far as what we need to do for upgrades for the following year in the wastewater side of things. We're crossing our fingers, hoping everything holds out with this main lift station. The back of this packet, I'll get you a page number here in a second. There's quotes for new pumps in that station. There's 3 different quotes. One's for 1 pump, one's for a duplex, one's for a triplex. That is a triplex station. Doesn't mean you have to do all 3 at one time. But if you were going to do all 3 pumps at one time, it's what, $216,000? So just let's remember here, when we get going a couple months, we start budgeting here, what, 2-3 months from now? August, September, something like that. We're going to talk about some serious money in the wastewater side. Serious. So, and this is just one station, right? We always have smaller $10,000 to $20,000 repairs on stations. That happens, and those, we get them done and we move on with our day, but this is a little bit bigger one. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
Phil, are these part of the projects that you've included in your grant request?
No,
Okay.
the grant request, that money can only get spent at the wastewater facility. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, question. If we are to go forward with these pumps, is there a process in which we could rebuild any of these pumps and have them as spares, or is it something that they're switched out to get a core charge, or how does that work?
We do get a core charge on. Yes, thank you very much. There is no more adapting to make this product work with an impeller or an impeller or a boot or anything like that.
Sure.
Those days are pretty much over. Trust me, I tried. After I saw 216,000, there's got to be a better way, and there isn't. With that being said, I'm not saying we need all 3 new ones. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But I am saying someday when we're sitting in a meeting, maybe even an emergency meeting, if the lift stations were in trouble, we talked about this, everyone knows about it. I don't want to get in that situation where we're dumping a whole bunch of money in a hurry, last minute, without everyone knowing what's going on.
For budget purposes, can you recommend a sequence of which ones to replace in order?
Yep, I sure can.
Because
I
we'll
can
need
go
that.
through- Yep, I'll go through that and figure that out. Once again, not all these need to be replaced. We're just looking at the main lift station pumps, which basically is the heartbeat of town.
Yeah.
Is it accurate to say that flow from our district partner and the state facilities utilizes this station?
Yes, everything in the city uses that station.
So one thing we've been looking at is through
It's
our
a percentage.
contracts, a percentage-based split between all the entities. So just know that that is something that we're looking at and using in our planning process as well.
And that's what we used when we initially made any changes on the joint use. All entities were, but if we do this, we have to remember the contract gives, with the sewer district, you have to do that by a certain date. So we have to make sure we do the right steps. And the state, because of their budgeting cycle, they want to know before their new budget year starts, which is July 1st. So whatever we do, we want to coordinate with those two entities well in advance. So it gets into their budget. And one thing about the state, I think their budget is 2 years out. That is something that we have to remember when we're dealing with the state.
Sure. And I don't know if this classifies as emergency or will by the time we get to it here. You just
All we
never
can
know.
do is,
So-
if we plan this year, we just have to notify them immediately and make sure that the sewer district, it has to be so many months before, I don't know, I can't remember the date, April?
And we're digging into those contracts as we speak, so that's
Yeah.
something that we're working on.
But I know what you're saying. I think we have to plan it and know what we're doing with it and be ready for it.
It's the cheapest way to do it,
Yeah,
if you can budget it.
correct.
When were these changed? When were these put in?
2015, 2016, sorry.
It gives the hours on the pumps, that was my question as well. And are those pumping hours just, is there an average pump time that they run a day? Because we have 342, 210, is that correct? Hour meter reading, does that mean anything, or?
Yeah, yes and no. Those numbers are accurate up until you have a high event of like a flood, for example. We were right at that threshold. We'll get to a certain point where your lift station will be overwhelmed enough to where none of the pumps will ever shut off. And they'll run for 5, 6, 7 days in a row, just keeping up with what's coming in the inflow, right? So hours are a tool we use from an operator side just to try to diagnose anything wrong with pumps, certain pumps, with ones running higher hours, ones running lower, whatever, cycles, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's up there, definitely up there. I mean, if what goes through our wastewater system is unbelievable. And it's amazing this equipment can last as long as it does. It really is. Honestly, everything that you guys want to throw away and get rid of and never want to see again, that's what these things deal with.
So
Every day.
we have capital improvement, should we be adding these to capital improvement, knowing that it's lasted 8 years, and we're looking at $200,000, should this be one of those items that we're adding so much a year for these new ones?
Absolutely.
Since we know that we're gonna need that.
Absolutely.
We should have that determined on the joint use. The state's 40%.
I don't know that number off the top of my head, but.
Okay, it used to be a higher number, but I know that they cut back because of their I&I on the roofs, and they were dumping all stormwater and everything into it, which they're not anymore. Used to be 60%. But I think they're 40%. That's something we should know, and we should be doing it. And I believe the sewer district is 18%, the rest is ours. So we should look at that data and save up for that split for us, whatever that is. I think that's a good idea to start.
And inform them of what the split is and that these major things
Absolutely.
are coming, so then they can put it in their budgets as well.
Yeah,
And then for us to start saving
Correct.
money for this.
correct.
Okay. As long as we all understand that.
Yep. No, the other pumps that you're talking about, that's another story, so
Yeah, we have-
those are all ours.
Yep. The bridge lift station is ran the same way as the main lift though.
Yeah.
Both facilities are utilized.
So we should be putting that data together too for the long term
Yep.
and probably setting aside money for those also. Start the planning process.
That'd be a very smart thing to do.
So, not that you need more work, but can you bring that to us as soon as possible?
Yeah, we can bring it to you next month.
Thank
Those
you.
numbers, those percentages per district and then, and for the DOC.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And what pumps, I guess, that we have in the city that are our own.
Yeah.
And we may only be able to pay a small portion of that, and we might have to go to some type of bonding if it gets to the point we can't
Yeah.
afford it.
Remember, we set that reserve. You had to look into that reserve where we should be for a fund balance. We set that for a reason.
Mhm.
This is part of those reasons, but then
Yeah.
if we take that money away, we gotta get it back in there.
Correct.
Sounds good.
That's another issue that we'll have to look at, this budgeting cycle and
Yep.
fees and all that kind of stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
You got the next one?
Yes,
You do.
But I'm not started yet.
6E, SEH Moose Lake Gravel Pit Memorandum.
Yes, so, council has been made aware that we were looking into the potential of having a, city facilitated gravel pit. And so what we've been doing is working with our city engineers and just gaining, information regarding the permitting process and costs of permits and, what it would take to facilitate, starting or initiating a gravel pit. And so this memo that was included in the packet kind of outlines the information that we've received thus far. Where we currently stand is they've given us a dollar amount of what the permitting process would cost. And so they threw out a $10,000 figure to us as far as what we would have to expend in order to acquire the permits necessary for a gravel pit. So what it would take at this point is then kind of looking at that land and determining what type of monies could be generated from prepping that area in order to compensate for that $10,000 permitting cost. So what we're looking for at this time is consensus to continue to move forward and investigate this. What we would be doing then is looking at logging of that land and potential revenue generation from logging of the land to determine whether or not it can compensate for that $10,000 permitting cost and to see if we can get the gravel pit established at a net for the city. So we are looking for consensus today and also discussion and any questions that council might have.
I think we need one more step too with this consensus, and that is a meeting with cemetery board.
So Phil and I have discussed that. We understand it is necessary. What we did want to do was proceed with informing them of this activity if there wasn't consensus behind it. So we've already discussed scheduling a cemetery board meeting. We have a couple items and columbarium fees and stuff to establish with them too. So once we know that there's interest, they will absolutely be included in the process.
Good. Council, questions?
Can I ask exactly where this is? Is this beyond, is it the backside of the Sunset Cemetery?
Southeast corner. Correct, it's the southeast corner. Yes.
Where is that? What is
It
that?
would be, have you been to the columbarium?
No.
You have not. Okay, so
Right
drive up
in
to
the
the columbarium.
cemetery.
Yep, in the cemetery. Go to the columbarium and you look straight to the east, straight to the south, there's a patch of woods down there. That whole quadrant is where we're looking at.
So
We're not
with,
even-
Would not be right in the backyard of the cemetery.
no, we would be looking at establishing a buffer,
Yep.
again, working with the cemetery board. But just knowing that there's consensus to move forward, then we could identify what area we would log to get a revenue generating estimate.
I just know that when that other party approached us about the cemetery, or the gravel pit right in front of the cemetery, you know, there was a lot of discussion there, and so I was just wondering exactly where.
The south side would be on Koloski Road.
Correct.
So it'd come out on Pulaski Road?
And once that gravel, talking about it, we would not dig deep. You would want it, once it's leveled off, then that land would become used still for cemetery. It would not be lost forever, but put back in use. But you're talking decades, many, many decades. There's so much land yet that hasn't been used for cemetery.
It's one more piece of the puzzle of the road projects that we can't financially get done. We're trying everything we can.
I think it's an excellent idea.
Consensus?
Yep.
You got it.
So we will take this to the cemetery board and we will start moving forward with getting some estimates and bring it back to council.
Thank you. Moving on to 7 reports and correspondence. A, the Minnesota Department of Transportation Alternatives Grant update.
So the city was notified that we have been awarded additional monies for the grant that will facilitate the last phase, phase 2 of the Trunk Highway 73 trail. So this is the proposed trail from the roundabout connecting to the Portage Trail. This would complete the loop, the entire loop around the city. The total project estimate at this time is right around $700,000. We have been awarded $492,000 in grant monies. In addition to this $492,000, we've applied for additional grants from the DNR that we should hear back on in the coming months. So the idea would be to complete the loop with fully grant-funded monies. And so that's our goal. This is one big step in that, so I wanted to let council know that we have been awarded this $492,000 grant from MnDOT.
Council, any questions?
Thanks for everyone.
Good job. Thanks. 7C, Star Gazette. There's a thank you in the Star Gazette. I think it is in the packet.
Oh.
This B maybe.
Did I miss one? I did. 7B, Minnesota Department of Health Source Water Protection Grant. Excuse me. Thank you.
So this is one of the grants that Superintendent Ettner's been working on. We were just notified that we received a $10,000 grant. In addition to this $10,000 grant, he was applied for and was issued for the city a $4,500 grant. So the total project cost is right around $19,500. And what we have between the previous grant and this $10,000 grant that we've just been awarded is $14,500. And so the other monies required to complete the repairs and or, is it brand new or lining? The lining. We budgeted for. So we now have all the monies required in order to line the lift station. So that's that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to 7C, the Star Gazette, thank you. This was put into the Star Gazette. We'd like to offer our sincere thank you to all the people who helped with the flood, volunteer fire department, police department, Team Global and crew, fill-in crew, and the Moose Lake City administration. Once again, thank you, Dennis and Barb Lindorf. So good job. Thank you. Number 8, committee and board meeting minutes. 8A, the clerk board regular meeting minutes for May 1st, 2023. 8B, Moose Lake Area Fire Protection District meeting minutes, April 11th, 2023. Any questions on the minutes? think the 4th of July planning is going ahead as scheduled like we do in the park. And the fireworks stuff that was mentioned, it should be hopefully in good form, good weather now. Other than that, 9 announcements. Regular Moose Lake City Council meeting Wednesday, June 14th, 2023, 4 p.m. right here, Moose Lake Economic Development Authority, Wednesday, May 17th, 2023, 12 p.m. at the City Conference Room. Moose Lake Water and Light Commission regular meeting May 17th, 2023, 1 p.m. at the Water and Light Office. Moose Lake Housing and Redevelopment Authority Board, Monday, June 12th, 2023, 11 a.m. at the Hillside Manor Office. Moose Lake Area Fire District, Tuesday, June 13th, 2023, 6:30 p.m. Emergency Response Center. Moose Lake Park Board meeting, Monday, June 5th, 2023, 5 p.m. at right here. Any other ones that were not mentioned? The EDA board will be, did you meet today?
Nope, the EDA's
No,
in
that's
there,
next week.
May
You mentioned
17th.
that. Okay,
Yep.
May 17th. Anything else?
I just have one question.
Yes.
Were the people responsible for the vandalizing of Moy's Memorial Park?
You know, we haven't, I talked to Moy, you're talking about Moy's thing,
Memorial.
and the family wants to take care of it themselves, for one thing. They decided they would like, they're gonna go back to the vendor and talk to the vendor about how to fix what was done, or even decide if they want anything done with it. And I haven't heard back from them. But I don't think we have had any idea who happened, who did it or when or how, or unfortunately. But I'll pass that on. I should know next meeting what the families decide to do with it. But they asked me not to do anything. They wanted to take care of it themselves, which is commendable. Yeah. Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.